Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another segment of Inside Dracut Politics. My quote for today: if we are to guide against ignorance and remain free, it's the responsibility of every American to be informed. Thomas Jefferson. How many of us out there, ladies and gentlemen, really try to be informed about what's going on? Maybe we read about what's going on in Washington, D.C. We might even consider checking on the state. But how many of us really care about what happens right here in our own little community, Dracut, Mass? The degree of responsibility that we here in Dracut, and I'm sure it's true in other communities, was expressed at the last primary when less than 4% of the people went out to vote. Is it any wonder that we're in the mess we're in? Because we, the people, don't seem to give a damn. We see our politicians not giving a damn about anything but their own little sphere of influence. So what do? We do the same. But who's the one that laughs all the way to the bank? It's not you. It's the one that you're trying to emulate. Responsibility is a word, in my estimation, that's no longer in the dictionary. I've said it before. When I first moved into this town 57 years ago, at times, at town meeting, the auditorium held 572 people. At times, we had to direct people to the cafeteria. That's how many people used to show up at town meeting. The same with the elections. But I suppose I can use the old saying, those who, in those days, today are classified as the greatest generation, whereas those of today who don't show up to town meetings or the elections are defined as the lost generation. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, we deserve exactly what we get. We reap what we sow. Not just in politics, but in life too. I left off on my last show talking a lot about our supposed leaders in government that seem to have no real knowledge of even basic economics. I say basic, ladies and gentlemen, in the sense that our dollar today isn't worth what it was just 25 years ago. certainly what it wasn't worth 50 years ago. Why? Because Obama prints more money when he needs it. And the more money he prints, the less your buck is worth. And I made mention of this in my last trip to Canada, which was a number of years ago. I went to the bank and cashed in my U.S. dollars and got $1.33 for every American dollar. Today, if you go to Canada, your dollar is worth 67 cents. Canada is in better shape than we are. Why? They don't have an immigration policy problem in Canada. They catch an illegal, they deport them. But not here in America. Oh, no. We're a land of immigrants. Canada, of course, wasn't, or sure. No. These idiots that use that as an excuse don't know anything about economics. They're making more money today, but it's costing them a hell of a lot more money to live. I can remember the day when a bread went for a dime. Quart of milk went for 15 cents. And we lived on a hell of a lot less money than what we're earning now. But the dollar was worth more. But we keep re-electing the same jerks who are perpetuating the problem. They don't know anything about economics either. Satisfy their own greed, they'll do anything. And usually at your and our expense. That's why they call it politics. Yeah, well, politics meant somewhat different back 50 years ago than it does today. Like a lot of professions today. The used car salesman was usually at the bottom of the list. He's no longer at the bottom of the list. What used to be respectable professions are in the tank. America had its greatest growth, economic growth, between the years 1870 and 1970. If you were just to stop and think about what has developed, what caused our economy to develop, all the inventions. 100 years ago, you didn't have your airplanes. You didn't have your trains. And you certainly didn't have all the digital stuff that you have today. But ladies and gentlemen, in the last 8 years, and this, as far as I'm concerned, was done willfully and for a reason. Our Muslim president wants to see this country go into the tank. It was stated years ago that America would never be conquered by outside forces, and if it was ever conquered, it would be from within. And ladies and gentlemen, what I read doesn't bode well for this country. Our technological advancement, ladies and gentlemen, has helped get the poor out of that lower status into the middle class. And if it had been allowed to continue, we wouldn't have the class warfare we have today. Look at the elderly. For years and years and years, we got our cost of living increase. At a different rate, however, than those in the public sector, the retirees. But we didn't get any. And who knows whether we'll get any next year if Hillary gets in. And if Hillary doesn't get in, ladies and gentlemen, I worry about what's going to happen. Why would our president want the power to declare martial law? What has he got up his sleeve? We'll know, ladies and gentlemen, after November the 8th. I don't know whether, well, I'm sure a lot of the older people that have lived in this town or in this country that live here now have heard of Barbara Anderson. Barbara Anderson, about 30 years ago, got the legislature to pass what they called, and still call, Prop 2.5, where cities and towns could not increase their levy, the cost of running their town, by more than 2.5%. She's now deceased, and Citizens for Limited Taxation is now being run by her two able assistants, both called Chip. One called Chip Ford, the other one called Chip Faulkner. They recently released their report on how our representatives and senators fared well on roll call votes taken from January 1st to today. Our local representative didn't fare well. So, and the funny part about it, ladies and gentlemen, is it's almost like proving what I've said. The longer we allow people to stay in office, the more independent they get, And this report certainly would seem to indicate that I was right. The worst one was the representative from Wilmington who missed 19 roll call votes. But our rep missed 16. Second place. And the third oldest one from Concord missed 12. Just last week, well, correction, no. It was the week of September 26th to September 30th. Our House members worked a total of 5 hours and 37 minutes the whole week. The Senate, the poor darlings, spent 5 hours and 42 minutes at their job that whole week. It seems that the longer you keep them in office, the less you get out of them. Well, next time term limits, if ever it ever comes back, would be your opportunity to change that. Yeah, the lower son likes to dig Dracut once in a while. Well, I think more often than their town of Chelmsford. Dracut Board blasts department auditors. And the difficulty is the board, all 5 members or just a couple? Well, the Sun only reported on 2, so I wonder, was it the board or just those 2? And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, the write-up gives the impression that they, in their criticisms of the town manager hiring this firm to check out both the police and fire, they give the impression that they're really protecting the chief. No. They weren't protecting the chief. What they were protecting or trying to is the status quo. The employees. In the case of the police department, it was the whole department. The fire department, at least, the chief got a good write-up. And deservedly so. And to me, if your employees are dissatisfied, it's a good sign. Maybe they'll work harder to gain satisfaction. But today, ladies and gentlemen, maintaining the status quo seems to be the ultimate goal in politics. They'll shoot their mouth off, say anything, try to denigrate those in authority, anything to keep their stupid system intact. We've been doing it for years. Yeah. Doing it wrong for years. And getting as much as you can for doing less than you can. Well, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. And if you don't have a strong leader, you're going to have what? Less than your dollar's worth, to be kind. And again, that survey that was taken and released as part of the MRI report seems to indicate that the whole department was in sync with the two that were doing the criticizing. Did they say, well, 5 out of the 30, or 15 out of the 30, or 25 out of the... No, they didn't say that. So how many in that survey completed the survey, first of all, and how many were for, and how many were against? But they didn't write that. I'll let you know. I'd like to know how it worked out. Was it the whole department that was upset? Or just a few that you would expect? Well, I've yet to see our leaders congratulate that fire chief for doing a good job. Why? What's so difficult about saying, that's great, chief, keep it up? And those that did the criticizing, remember that the next raise. Ladies and gentlemen, I've mentioned the greatest generation and the lost generation. And ladies and gentlemen, I've lived in both. So I can and am allowed to be able to do so. When I was growing up in this country, the country was a beacon of freedom for the entire world. However, ladies, we do not live in the land of the free anymore. We've become, excuse me, instead of we the people, we are now we the prisoners. Prisoners of the American police state. Our losses are mounting every single day. The government does whatever it wants, and freedom be damned. When has Obama, Hillary, that clique, when have they ever considered obeying our laws? Following the example of our Constitution. Yeah. It's what they damn well want, and the hell with you. It's not a country of we and by the people. It's run now by politicians who could give a damn about this country. Democrats, Republicans. Do you think for a minute that today, well, I won't say all of them, but still most of them, because they're still in control, care about, no, this country. All they care about is what they can get out of it. John Boehner, a good example of what's going on in D.C. The Speaker of the House, he was recently deposed. Never, however, given the reason why. But those that do know, organizations that have worked to stop the corruption that exists in D.C., and I made mention of it before on this show. When a House member submitted a bill that would help corporations or individuals, he would sit on it until someone sent a donation to his campaign account. Once he got the money, he allowed the law or the motion for a law to be acted on. Now, if that isn't corrupt, ladies and gentlemen, and they let him go free, he didn't run for re-election. He'd have never made it because it would have come out. But how many times have you seen and read about people in D.C., Lois Lerner, the former head of our Justice Department? I mean, the things that these people did and allowed was criminal in nature. Even Hillary, the head of the FBI, yes, sugarcoated it, but still came out and said she used very poor judgment. But these people are getting away, and no one is getting prosecuted, which is setting a bad example for all the others. Well, we have an opportunity to see positive change. That's how Obama got in 2008, promising change. He didn't tell us what he was promising to change, however. Ladies, if we lose freedoms here, there is no place for us to escape to, except maybe Canada, because Canada, as I said earlier, is in a lot better shape today than we are. You're being told increasingly that you have to either be on the right or the left. Well, no American, ladies, no American who can count himself as an American will join any side that will do harm to the greatest country in the world. Once the greatest country in the world. But in the past 8 years, ladies and gentlemen, we've lost. We, the Americans, have lost stature throughout the rest of the world. Everyone used to look to us for leadership, No one is doing that today because they don't see that we today have the kind of leadership that for years this country was noted for. But ladies and gentlemen, think about it. And I'm sorry, I use the word think. We have people out there that don't have that ability. The followers, the takers, the phonies. I'm talking about the patriots, and not the Boston Patriots, the American patriot, who gave his life so that this country could persevere. And what are we doing to reward him or her? Nothing. We won't get involved. We won't uphold our responsibilities. All we think about is us, the we lost generation. And I'm not just talking about the poor, ladies and gentlemen. Our educated class. Who should be setting the example. Love of country. Aren't doing it at all. Again, they're all part of the we lost generation. They don't look to those with years of experience. Oh no, those are old fogies. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm probably one of those. I know I've been accused of it a number of times. However, I've probably reached the age that I am at because of a clear conscience. Yes, a conscience. I wonder how many people know that word. They don't know what the word responsibility means, so why should they know anything about conscience? Oh, I have a college degree. I might even have a master's or a doctorate. Are you a decent human being? I wonder. You can't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, on a flat tire. An attitude has been defined. Today as a flat tire. Nobody seems to want to change the tire. President Reagan said, "You are told increasingly that we have to choose between a left or a right. But I would like to suggest that there is no such thing as a left or right. There is only an up or down. Up, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant heap and regardless of their sincerity, those who would trade our freedoms for security embarked on this downward course. Are we going to be slaves to government? Or are we going to be free people? Are we going to shit-can political correctness? Are we going to redefine discrimination to what it really is? Are we going to fall into that heap that Reagan mentions? Well, I think we're already there. Because certainly we don't seem to be concerned about the attempt to wipe out our religious beliefs. Certainly, natural law today doesn't seem to bother anyone. When same-sex marriages are allowed, when we cater to the gay group, no. Where is our sanity? I don't know. You know, I've read many times in the Sun about people criticizing a column writer by the name of Peter Lucas. I read his column every time it's in the paper. Others, Dorothy Parker and a few others, I don't even bother. Peter Lucas, ladies and gentlemen, has experience to draw on. He's seen it and lived it. People don't like to say or read what he says because they see it as a reflection on them. And ladies and gentlemen, he's a hell of a lot smarter than a lot of our politicians especially, and some of our educators included. He's lived the years, and he has a perfect right to tell it the way it is. And if that hurts anyone, kiss it. People coming out of journalism schools today have not been educated, they've been indoctrinated, which is true in many other colleges, not just journalism. A professor's ideology, he should leave at home. He's there to educate his students in the courses that they've taken. And I was in college, ladies and gentlemen, when most of the students were GIs. And I've seen some of them stand up to the professors and fought against their ideology. And as strange, ladies and gentlemen, let one or two of those come up and do that to these professors. You find out they change their ways quickly. And the same applies to politicians. You don't coddle them. If they do something wrong, they should be made aware of it. Anyone, any of your representatives who voted for that transgender bill, lack something here. And certainly shouldn't be allowed to continue serving we the people. This bill was passed, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't put on the ballot for us to decide. The fact that this individual passed or submitted a bill to make Massachusetts the entire state, not just certain cities, the entire state, sanctuary cities for the illegal immigrants. Their ideology, ladies and gentlemen, not yours. And that's where the buck should stop. They're there to represent you. And if they don't know where you stand, they should make an effort to find out. Not by talking to their underlings or the wannabes. Talk to we the people. Most of the people running today they're not in there to do the job, most of them. They're in there to try to make them, I'm going to be somebody. And that somebody isn't being a human being. Oh no. That won't make me a somebody. But why in the hell do we keep electing and re-electing these people? And those that do run, that want to do good, for some reason, people don't trust them. Because they're all alike. But at the same time, are they getting a better life, ladies and gentlemen? No. No, they're not. We cannot continue to spend and spend and spend and spend without having to face the consequences. Politicians today are not in there to make a better life for you. They're in there to satisfy the unions, to satisfy the public sector, to satisfy special interests. Not because they love their community, not because they love their state, not because they love their country, but because of what it will get them. Ladies and gentlemen, I can truthfully tell you that in my 6 years, I was not a politician. I was not in there to help my friends. I was in there to do what was good for the town. And I'm happy to say that I accomplished my goal. And any of today's wannabes whether they're willing to admit to that or not, I don't give a damn. Because my conscience is clear. Yes. We had a woman that was well regarded in the anti-feminist movement. Phyllis Schlafly died in September. On a number of occasions, Phyllis went head-to-head with Betty Friedan, F-R-E-I-D-A-N, the leader at that time of the feminist movement. She was denounced by the leaders of the feminist movement as a Auntie Tom. Not Uncle Tom, but Auntie Tom. Denounced as a traitor. She even made the statement, "I'd like to burn you at the stake." But Phyllis stood firm for the most important of a woman's right, the right to keep her baby. Libbers failed to understand that most women want to be a wife, a mother, and homemaker, and are very happy in that role. But today, of course, that isn't enough. All of these things they're willing to forsake in order to prove that they're better than a man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there have been a few that have been able to do it. But the vast majority, ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Pelosi, I think probably tops the list. And all of those representing the state of California, all in the same category. Even our own 1/32 of a percentage of being an Indian. Now, what has she done since she's been in office? What has she done to better the woman's position? No. It's if you do good for everyone, you're doing your job. You shouldn't be singling out any individual, any group, any. You should be working to better everyone. But that's not what's happening today. Too big to fail. That philosophy, ladies and gentlemen, has gotten us nowhere but deeper in debt. And Phyllis wasn't a dummy. She was a graduate of Radcliffe, Harvard, an MA in political science, and a law degree. Her last book, titled The Conservative Case for Trump, she writes, "The stakes are unmistakably high. I know that some well-meaning conservatives find Trump puzzling or even offensive. But after 70 years of active involvement in Republican politics, my book might help sway them." Sway them how? Make them see that following the Republican book has ruined the party. Being offensive, ladies and gentlemen, might be just what we need to rock us off our rocker and get us to think about what this country has meant to us and hopefully to our children and grandchildren. We don't want or need or should expect 4 or 8 more years of Hillary Clinton. And those people out there who will vote for her just because she's a woman ought to be put on a leaking ship and sunk in the middle of the ocean. Because you don't deserve to live in this country of free people. Stop allowing yourself to be deceived. And start thinking, how do you expect someone who has lived as she has for the 40 years that she's been in public office, with all the known scandals the lies, the deceit. Do you think that woman will change to accommodate you or we the people? Like hell she will. And look where it's gotten us. And we're not done yet. Keep your fingers crossed as to what will happen if she loses on November the 8th. I said it here, and certainly I would hope that you will think about that on November the 8th. Certainly, if you have any respect for yourself as citizens, especially those citizens born here in America, who have lived under its freedoms, honor, country, duty. And say it if you want. You heard it from an old codger who has lived his life and has a clear conscience. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be a preacher. But I want you to seriously consider what your obligations are as citizens of what was once the greatest country in the world, and what will happen to your kids and their grandkids and what have you if we lose what we have had all these years. I want you to start thinking and do your duty. My time is up. Good Lord willing, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in a couple of weeks.